Hello, my name is Esther and I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of my website. So here is the home page. You can see at the top I have a navigation bar that has a logo and 4 pages: terminology, top games, recommended, and resources. You'll also notice that the nav bar sticks to the top of the page as well. Below I also have an image that has a title, a heading that has an animation, and an about, so that you know what the website is about. Mine is about video games, so there's the little blurb. If you scroll down a bit, there's a little interface here where you can start exploring on all of the other pages. As you can see, they each have an animation and a title for the image. There's also just some links down here if you want to click those instead. They will take you to the same places as in the nav bar. So the logo will always take you back to the home page, and we'll get there later. First is my terminology page, which you can see also has an animation. But now that we're on the page, you can see that it lights up yellow so that you know that you're on that page. Just like the other page, we also have a giant image here, and a header, as well as actually a new menu on the side here to help you jump around the page as it's a bit long. I'll demonstrate. And if you want to go back to the top, there's always a back to the top button right down here. So you can see I can skip all the way down there and then go back up. If I want to go here, I can jump all the way down there and go back up. For now, we'll just go here. I have some descriptions. I have 2 tables with images, a list, another list, and a bunch of accordions because this page is about definitions. I filled in most of the information here as well. You can hover, and you can also click and it'll stay open, which is nice, so you know which one you're on. As the whole page is pretty much this format. And the bottom here, so we'll go back to the top. Next, we're going to go to top games. Another image here, a preface, and this is just for games that are very well known, big titles, that sort of thing. So I've organized them by year, as well as this first section is influential games, so like classics. I have a slideshow here. All of the images have titles. It has a page counter in the corner, 2 buttons, as well as a little title here so you can read it. So I can go to the right and you see the number will change, the image will change, as well as the name associated. I intended to have a lot more images and more descriptions here in this table, you'll see in a second, but because of time restraints I restricted it to 3. So yes. Next we have a table for the name and description of the game, a link to the gameplay or trailer, and the image again. So you can see I've done a couple examples here. And these will actually take you to a video if I click this, but I'm going to stay on this page for now. Same again for here. And here's where my video is. I added a little caption on the bottom so you know what the video is about, and you can play it. I don't have the sound on, which is fine, and I'm going to make it full screen so it is easier to see. But yes, that's my video. Normally I would have all the videos here, but because the file would be too large, I kept them as links. Once again, every image has its own tag. I'm going to go to the back to the top with this button. Next is recommended. It's the same style as top games page. So a preface, and then it's divided more into genres. So I have the main genre here, action games, as well as the subgenre, which will have the table in the slideshows. Once again, I'm meant to have more, but due to time constraints, it is limited to these 2 examples here. Same with these examples here. Let me show you how the link goes there. All the links will keep you in the same tab, so you can always just go back to where you were before. It might not load, so actually, actually it's fine, yeah. So you can come and just watch the video. And then I'll go back. And yeah. Lastly, we have the resources page. It just has some hyperlinks that you can go off and explore on your own. I've highlighted all of the links so that they're easy to see, and when you hover over them, it's easier to see which one you're on top of. Yes, and as you can see, for all the pages, I kept the font the same throughout, as well as I tried to keep some spacing in the middle so that's easier to read. Now I will show you the mobile aspect of the website. It's pretty responsive. You'll see my code behind me, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, the home page. You'll notice that when I shrink it, the nav bar does turn into a hamburger menu with an animation, and all of the animations will stay the same for the links. And when you go to that page, it will still be highlighted in the yellow that I picked. Yep. And you can still use these. Let's go to terminology. You can see there's the yellow again. But you can see for the most part, it is pretty responsive. You can read all of the information pretty easily. These tables are pretty easy to read. The lists. This I forgot to push to the side, but that's very easy to fix. And these accordions also are very responsive. You can still read them all if you want to. Top games page. The slideshow is very responsive. You can still see all of them. However, the table itself was a bit more tricky to get that to work. So all the text did kind of squish. You can read it still. It's a bit harder. You can see the image and the link. I made a little scroll button here, but it's not the best it could be. So that could be something I could work on. But thankfully the slides work okay. Same with the video, you can still see it. You would have to expand it a little bit to get a better look, but you can always make it full screen. So if you want to do that, you can do that. And this has a scroll bar. They all have scroll bars too. And yes, it's going to be same for the recommend page. Everything should still be responsive. You should be able to read the text pretty well. Slideshows are good, and just the same issue with the table, but I added the scroll bar. It is what it is. And lastly, resources. Here you can see that I aligned everything. Earlier is in the middle, and even when you shrink it down a bit, you can still, it's not the most aligned, but you can still get to the links pretty okay. And if you squish it even more, they start to align again, so that's not a huge issue, especially because I highlighted the links, so that's not too much of an issue. This is all responsive though, this section, as well as the bottom part. You can still access all of these. Go back to the home menu. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about my code. So let me close this. Just 3 things I want to mention that I had difficulty with and then fixed up. So the first thing actually is the navigation bar. When I first made my website, I didn't use this format here. I used an unordered list, and it got a bit complicated when I wanted to switch over to a hamburger menu and just a responsive navigation bar in general. So I had a little help from a classmate, and I didn't realize you could just have a little nav or a div tag, and you can just have some anchor tags here with the links. It made it a lot more simplistic, and it was easier to work with that. I also had a lot of trouble with the hamburger menu. And I did look that up on one of the helpful websites for coding. And here's how I got it to work. I created a wrapper for the little hamburger menu itself. So these are the 3 bars that you'll see when I close the menu. This. And in order to make the actual menu appear, what I did is it's not the same menu that you saw here. It's actually a clone, but it is a separate one with a different ID. So I named this one the original navbar, so it's the horizontal one, and this is the mobile menu navbar. And it functions the same way because it's made the same way. The way I made that work actually is pretty clever. So when you use JavaScript and you open up the hamburger menu, oh, here's the animation for it. You can see this will give it the animation. However, when you open the menu, the original navigation bar, this one, will hide. Display will be none, so you won't see it at all. And instead, this menu will pop up. And I had a lot of trouble getting this to work initially, but I'm really happy that it does now. And you can see it just works very well. A lot of people have a drop-down menu. I'm not sure how to get that to work, but to be honest, this works pretty well too. Yeah, so this works very well. Next, I wanted to talk about on my terms page just about the accordions I made. So I was advised by a professor that it was a bit hard to parse through all of the text I had on the screen, like it's a bit too cluttered. And I agreed that having an accordion actually made the page look a lot better, a lot more clean, just nicer to look at. And let me get to that here. So if I go to general terminology, this was all just like all the descriptions were just out in the open, kind of like this, and it was a lot to read. So now you can read all this information from opening the drop-down menu, which is great. And I looked up how to do that. I saw the general layout. So this is actually the layout here. It's a template I made. And once you get a template, I realized once you get a template for anything you're going to repeat more than like once or twice is extremely helpful. So as you can see here on the side, I have a lot of copies of the accordion because I intend to use it a lot more. But the main way I organized it is that the button, the this part here, this whole bar with the term or the description, the term or the phrase on it is a button, and when you click it, this is a whole div. You see, I called it panel, and you can just write, whatever you want inside that, and then when you close it, it will basically, it has a little JavaScript, but when you close it, it will hide everything. I don't really know much about JavaScript, so I can't explain it to you in depth, but I can show you what it looks like. So this is it's not a lot, it's just a little bit. Where I copied this from, it did say exactly what this does. It toggles between the active and the closed, I think. And you can see here, it will hide when it's not open. And honestly, I had a lot of other problems with making this website and a lot of content. I was so ambitious. There's a lot of content I wanted to add, but had to cut. But I feel like it's pretty fleshed out well. I did have a lot of features I'm happy I was able to add, such as the accordion, like I said. The navigation bar is really happy with. The animation and getting these to work. Yeah, so I was just happy with it overall. And I guess I could talk about this real fast. I had some trouble with this. Again, the same friend who I had help from in class, he had something similar on his page, and I wanted to have this on the home page. And he advised me to make it is you have an empty div and give that a background. And the way he did it was that you make the background size 100%, and then when you hover, it's over 100%. And the positioning is center, so that it comes, you see how it goes outwards from the center, not from a corner or anything. However, I had issues doing that, and I actually found a workaround to that. Let me see where I got that. Yes, so down here, here's how I formatted it. Looks like I had a div for the entire thing so that I could make it a flex so that they're aligned side by side. Gave them a little bit of spacing, of course, so they can get bigger. I gave each box itself a div. So this particular div relates to this one. It goes to the terminology page. So it says go to terms. The image itself is a link, which requires an anchor tag. Then the image, of course. And then the caption is below it. So that's this whole anchor tag as well. And in the styles, let's see where it is. Here it is. Let's see what I did here. I aligned everything to the center. I made sure it's object fit cover so that the image doesn't get cropped too much. Like, it is cropped right now, but honestly, I don't mind it so much. The images aren't as important to me. Gave them some margins and padding and whatnot. And then I gave it a transition. Oh, and I gave a box shadow too. You probably noticed that. But I gave it a transition to ease out. And when you hover, I transformed the scale of it. That's what makes it go outwards like this. And I did that for all of them. I don't think there's anything else too tricky about it, but it was a nice workaround. I had trouble actually. The main issue is getting the size correct. So you really need to define the width and the height. If you have different size images or anything, some wacky size for your image, just make sure you give it a defined shape. So this is the square shape I have here, the 300 by 300. And this here is for the image tag. You can kind of just skip over the anchor. I'm going to go straight to the image, and you want to make sure that your width and height is also 100%. That's just how I did it. You don't have to do it that way. I'm not really sure why it squishes like that, but actually it kind of looks pretty good. So I don't really mind it too much either. And that is my website. So thank you for watching.